chapter 19 and 20, and 19 is called Bayon is Lost to Me, so I don't like the sound of that. I wakened in the still dark, my escape plans instantly withering. Genma was gone from her bed. Hurriedly, I pulled on my boots, but before I could slip outside, I heard the heavy footsteps approaching. The girls stirred, though neither they nor their younger brother arose. By the pinkish light sifting past Genma through the door flap, I saw the sleeves of her berry-colored dell were pushed to her elbows, and that her meaty arms were smeared with blood. She flinched, momentarily surprised at seeing me sitting on the edge of my bed. "May the sun shine upon you," she said in greeting. "Won't you stir up the cooking fire, dear one? I'll ready us some tea." Reluctantly, I poked at the embers with 2 dung cakes, and after adding my breath, coaxed a small fire. Genma and I were soon seated beside the flames, sipping tea, and while I tried to keep up with her chatter about horses, I kept eyeing her bloody arms and wishing I was far, far away. One by one, her children awakened, and yawning, took bowls in their hands to join us. I didn't realize I was still rubbing at my collarbone until Genma asked what was the matter. I could only throw up my hands and laugh weakly. After breakfast, Genma found one thing after another to keep me at her side. She dug through a chest to show me an ancient and brittle silk scarf that had been carried all the way from Shangtu. Placing each of her delicate tea bowls one by one into my cupped hand, she told me when she had received each and the name of the rider who had given it to her. Genma went so far as to drape a length of pale thistle-colored silk across my shoulder and promised to begin sewing me a new dell the next day, as if I had already agreed to join the family. In this manner, the morning crawled along. Bader padded in and out, dozing in the moving circle of the sunlight before, time and again, jumping up suddenly to skitter outside. I longed to follow him, but each time my eyes wandered, Genma slapped me upon the back and pulled another treasure and another story from her trunk. When I could tell, even within the shadows of the aero station, that the sun had risen high in the sky, I politely interrupted her ramblings. "Please," I said, "I must go see to Banyan now. Perhaps her leg is better." The large woman's face fell. Her shoulders rose and sank, expelling a long sigh. Squatting spraddle-legged on her orange stool, Genma motioned to me. "Come, Oyuna, I have something to tell you." Panic-stricken, I somehow managed to push my feet forward until I was engulfed in the meaty arms, pressed into the squashy bosom. Genma smothered me in her embrace while she rocked back and forth upon the squeaking stool. "I'm sorry, Oyuna, very, very sorry," she murmured these words into my ear, "but Bayan did not live the night. I found her near death this morning." Holding my trembling body at arm's length, Genma looked into my face and said, "Too much grain. It was the kindest thing ending her life. I know you would not have wanted her to feel any more pain." I shook my head, a sick fear squeezing my heart. "No, I must see her. Where is she?" "She is dead, Oyuna. There is nothing you can do. Better you stay inside here today until I can harness the ox and drag the body away." "No," I said again, shaking my head vigorously. "No, I won't. I must see her. You can't keep me here." I twisted free of her grip, but with unexpected swiftness, Genma lunged toward the doorframe and blocked my escape with her large body. "Oyuna," she said in a strangely calm voice, "I have known horses for many more years than you. I know it is best. Now it's all right to cry, child. Why, I shed some tears myself when I found your poor mare suffering so." She sounded so caring, yet every bone in my body was telling me to run from that place. "I understand how you feel, Oyuna," she was saying. "So you must go back and sit by the fire and we'll talk about your mare, about Bayan. You can tell me about your days with her, and after a long cry you'll feel better. And tomorrow will be better, and the day after that, and so on. You'll see." "Well, that's so sad." At that moment, Bader rushed in between Genma's fat ankles, looked around wildly, and bolted back outside. I had to follow him, I felt, or stay caught forever in Genma's greedy trap. My own quick glance around the room showed that my saddle and bridle were missing. So was the leather pouch given to me by Ekin Corlo, and the Khan's twig and goatskin bags. But I still had the knife. I slipped into my boot on the day I had cut off my braid. I still had the knife I had slipped into my boot on the day I cut my braid. Holding Genma's angry gaze, I slowly reached my hand inside my boot, found the small knife's iron handle, and pulled it out, aiming the point at the woman's fat middle. Genma's eyes widened. "Oyuna, you put that down this instant. I won't have such behavior in my home." "Let me out of here," I said between gritted teeth. "Now, Oyuna," she began to say, but in one swipe, her huge arm knocked my fist aside, sending the knife flying into the fire. With eerie precision, it angled off the bronze cauldron, pierced the embers, and most unlucky, stuck, small flames lapping at the handle. Genma gasped. The hairs on my neck stood stiff, yet so determined was I to escape that place that I moved toward the knife anyway. The rush of air at my side told me Genma's grasp had fallen short. "No," she cried, still clinging to the doorframe. "The knife has cut the fire. We must call the shaman." But I would not listen. That must have been some sort of bad luck. But I would not listen to her anymore. With the toe of my boot, I kicked the knife clear of the flames. Then I knelt, slipped my hand inside the sleeve of my dell, and seized the hot handle. Heart pounding in my ears, I rose. "Let me out now," I said, again pointing the knife at Genma and taking a confident step toward her. Fear blanched Genma's fat face, for now I threatened her with bad luck, as well as a weapon. Her small eyes hard on the blade, she eased her weight aside, giving up just enough daylight for me to dart past. Outside, I stumbled over the bloody carcass of a sheep, but gave it no mind when I saw that one of Genma's horses, a dapple gray gelding with 2 white stockings and a white belly patch, stood saddled and waiting. The bulging goatskin bags were slung across his back. At that instant, I heard a leisurely clip-clopping and looked down the path to see Delger riding toward us. Genma was behind me now, waving and shouting for him to hurry, but he couldn't hear her. Cupping a hand to his ear, Delgar rode up to the aero station and reined to a surprised halt. Brandishing my knife, I ordered the wide-eyed Delgar to step from his horse and hobble it. While he was doing so, I spun around, slashing the knife wildly through the air. I could see the two sisters, open-mouthed, peeking at me from around the corner post. So fierce I must have appeared. Like an animal I crouched, lifting my lip to reveal clenched teeth. A grunting noise made me spin, slash the air again, but it wasn't Genma. There at my feet, playing in the dirt, was the odd son. He was grinning at me and grunting, earnestly trying to tell me something. From behind his back, he pulled the leather pouch given to me by my grandmother and held it high in the air. For just a moment, my fury melted. I smiled at him, squeezing his chubby hand as I took the pouch. I brandished the knife one last time at the others, then untied the gray's reins and stepped into the saddle. Thumping my heels, I galloped down the path and into the thicket. "You don't know the way," I heard Genma shout. "You won't make it through the mountains." "You may be right," I silently answered, "but at least I'm choosing my own path." Fear and excitement washed through my veins as I bent over the neck of the sprinting horse. Jumbled pictures, pieces of thoughts blew through my mind like the wind through the whipping mane. Was I headed in the right direction? Would I be safe? What, in the name of Tengri, had happened to Bayan, and where was Bantor? Bounding uphill, galloping in grunting leaps, we shadowed the tumbling stream. Kept pushing, springing until we climbed up and over the first rise, then pushed on again until we cleared the second rise. Only then did I pull the gray to a stop. He was blowing hard, too hard, and a new fear began to strangle my stomach. This horse I sat upon, the one I needed to escape, was not fast. Genma's bows fell short of their target. The poor animal's legs were trembling with the sudden effort. They carried neither strength nor stamina. Why any one of my father's horses could outrace him. Hidden from view in a brushy hollow lying beyond one rise and the next, I pulled Genma's horse into a circle, letting him find his breath while I held mine, listening for followers. My ears heard no hoofbeats, no triumphant shouts of chase, but they did catch the far-off cry carried on the breeze of a small animal. I smiled at Bader's complaining. Although I itched to gallop farther away from Genma's aero station, I waited. Finally, the tiger-striped cat bounded through the brush, pink tongue fluttering between loud meows. At least I had one of my friends back, though Genma's telling of Bayan's death chilled my heart. "Come up, Bader," I said, patting my leg for him to jump into the saddle. But the wailing animal ignored me, blinking his upturned green eyes against the bright sunshine. Bader also circled anxiously, meowing, then turned away from the babbling stream to trot along the hollow. Biting my lip, fearful that we would still be caught, I reined in the gray behind the scurrying, stiff-tailed animal. Not a dozen breaths later, a familiar whinny wafted through the air. Bayan! I was sure of it! I stood in my stirrups looking, but I could not see her, for the mountainside slanting around me folded into gullies and rose into hillocks. Newly leafing bushes stretched their green branches across my face as if to further hinder my search. Bader was quickly trotting ahead, so I urged the gray to hurry up and follow him around the jagged base of a long, rocky slope. Before the horse responded, Bader disappeared. I kicked my tired mount into a reluctant trot, turning my head this way and that. Suddenly the saddle dropped from under me. The gray, snorting and scrambling in alarm, was sliding on his haunches into a mud-slickened gorge. I could only sit deep and hope we safely reached the bottom. But the scare was worth it, for as I gathered the reins, patting the frightened horse on the neck, my eye caught something white moving within some large bushes. There, even though hobbled and tied to a branch, pranced my lovely white mare, Bayan. Oh man, so the title of that chapter threw us off, didn't it? Bayan is lost to me. So beautiful was she just then, eyes black and alive, neck arching with pride, mane falling upon her shoulders like a silken robe. I practically tumbled out of the saddle in my eagerness to reach her. I ran my hands down her fine legs, slender as a gazelle's, to unfasten the coarse hobbles, then quickly untied her head and threw my arms around her fuzzy neck. Bayan nickered and rubbed her face against my shoulder. Bader, too, was rubbing against me, still meowing, and I knew we had to hurry. Leading the still panting gray beside Bayan, I tied to him the branch in her place and slipped the hobbles upon his legs. Then I lifted the saddle from his back and fastened it upon Bayan's. I draped the Khan's heavy bags across it. After fitting the bridle into Bayan's mouth, I was ready. This time, when I called Bader into the saddle, he scrambled up my leg and balanced, crouched in my lap. Giving Bayan her head, I let her pick an easy way up and out of the gorge. She moved willingly with no hint of lameness, and shortly we were back climbing beside the tumbling stream. So Genma had lied to me, I thought. She had hoped that if she took Bayan from me, I would give up my dreams and stay and marry her son. But I won't give up my dreams, I said to myself, and silently I prayed that Delgar would not give up his. Okay, chapter 20, Our Heads Brush the Skies. We threw ourselves at the mountains, Bayan, Bader, and I, climbed enthusiastically toward the heavens, mystic realm of the shamans, home to the gods, opening to the other world, and to my mother. That thought rippled my spine with a shiver. Bayan's furry white shoulders tirelessly bunched and released beneath me, grabbing at the steep slope and pushing it behind us. Head low, breath rhythmic, she poured her energy into gaining the top before night fell. I was awed by her smooth power. Bader, on the other hand, was all playfulness, springing recklessly through the undergrowth, pouncing upon bugs, crouching and wriggling before dashing madly ahead, then sitting and meowing, waiting for Bayan and me to catch up. We had resumed our journey south. Its adventure filled the two animals with excitement, but I was full of dread. Trailing my fingers across my hip, I laid a hand upon the empty place where Khan's gold piazza, my guarantee of safe passage, was missing. In my haste to escape with the goatskin bags, I had forgotten to take both the message pouch and the gold piazza. Now I was just another person riding through the land. No longer did I carry the protection of the Khan as his arrow rider. Nor did I carry with me any food or any sure directions other than a hint to follow the stream to lead me to the city of Balik. How was I ever going to find Kubla Khan and my swift horse? And there was something else, something that made me flinch with each thorny bush that snatched at my trousers, made me jump with each twig that snapped beneath Bayan's hooves. The bad luck. My bad luck. I was sure I could feel its icy breath skimming the back of my neck. When my knife had cut through Jenma's fire, it and the arrow station had become unclean. She had been right. We should have stopped and sent for the shaman. But no, I had boldly kicked the tainted knife from the fire and, holding it close to me, raised it as a weapon. I'd been trying to ignore it all afternoon, certain we could outclimb it, but now, glancing over my shoulder for the 100th time, I saw my bad luck chasing after us in the form of an angry gray storm clouds. At that moment, a flash of lightning lit the rapidly darkening sky. Thunder rumbled up the mountainside, nipping at our heels. I shrank in the saddle. Maybe an offering to the mountain spirit would save us. Reaching trembling fingers inside my boot, I lifted the small iron knife away from me and let it drop. The slope's webby undergrowth swallowed the tainted weapon, and Bayan's powerful pace quickly carried us past it. But that wasn't enough. A blue-white bolt of lightning crashed directly overhead, firing the sky. In its blinding glare, I saw the stiff, waxy face of my mother lying in the mud. Fear gnawed my bones. My mother had died because of her daughter's bad luck. Was I leading Bayan and Bader into the same fate? Again I heard thunder roar louder and louder until its deafening boom shook the mountain. At our backs this time hissed another bolt of lightning. I cringed. Squeezing my eyes shut, I hunkered over Bayan's neck. And then the heavens split open, drenching us in a pounding rain. Bader gave up his games to crawl, sodden and shivering, into my lap. Though she had to pick her way more carefully now, Bayan kept climbing. The mucky sound of hooves sloshing through mud changed to the clacking sound of hooves striking upon stone. We were working our way higher. An occasional misstep upon the slick rock caused Bayan's hip to slump, nearly unseating both Bader and me. But still, the determined white mare climbed on. The rain grew heavier and colder with nightfall. The hard drops pelleted my bare head, stung the burning tops of my ears. They turned to ice in my hair and began forming thick snakes of ice in Bayan's mane. I had long ago lost any feeling in my toes. And though, blinking the water from my eyes, I could see the reins entwined around my fingers, I could not feel their leather. I was as wet as if I had plunged into a river, fully clothed. Shivering without control, my knees banged weakly against the sides of the saddle. Rain and night slowly engulfed the mountain. Finally, I could not see an arm's length in front of me. The path ahead, if there was one, swam in darkness. For all I knew, we were climbing straight into the murky other world of the dead. I felt Bayan twist sharply beneath me, and suddenly a rocky wall was scraping my knee, ripping at my trousers. Sucking in my breath, I tried to flatten my leg, but the pressure kept building. Even Bayan was acting nervous now. She stopped and started in fitful leaps, hooves scrambling on loose pebbles. Then she would pause, swinging her nose this way and that against the black veil of rain, snorting, before frantically jumping again into the void. A useless passenger, I could only clutch the clawing, ear-flattened Bader to my lap and trust the instincts of my white mare. Tree branches no longer brushed my cheeks and shoulders, and even before the mind-numbing rain, I had lost the stream's reassuring babble. A dizziness in my head joined a sickness in my stomach to warn that we balanced high upon the mountain slope. But with the blackness all around us, I could see nothing. Nothing. Bayan lunged forward again, but this time her hooves scrambled helplessly as her weight lurched sideways. I suddenly felt myself being pulled down as she stumbled to her knees, plunged onto her shoulder. My leg was pinned beneath the mare and the rocky slopes as we began sliding fast, the mountain ripping through my skin as easily as it ripped through my dell, searching for bone. Amid the drumming blows to my head, my elbow, my hip, I somehow knew Bader leaped free. But I was pinned beneath a crushing weight and falling into the darkness. How long it was before I knew the mountain had stopped sliding beneath my fingernails, I don't know. The rain had ceased, and when I became aware of the cold mud painting my cheek, the grit lodged under my tongue. I tried to rise. Stabbing pains like ice into flesh pierced my ribs and ankle. I exhaled in brief, gasping breaths, clawing the wet earth and wondering at the bits of light twirling overhead. Gradually, the white dots slowed, floating, then stuck hard in the raven's wing pressed so close to my face. I remember putting up my hand, wanting to touch the silky blackness. Instead, a whiteness pushed away the night. A warm softness blew upon my upstretched fingers. Bayan! She was standing over me, nudging my hand with her soft muzzle. I felt my fingers trace the puckering lips, find the curving jawbone, climb to the cheekbone, stumble into the lashes and the liquid eye. Startled, Bayan jerked away. My hand dropped to the ground, limp, and I let the black wing fall across me once more. I think the black wing is just sort of darkness because she's so out of it from being dragged. How long I lay, eyes unseeing a second time, I still don't know. Gradually, I became aware of a buzzing in my ear like that of a winged bug prodding me awake. Yet before I opened my eyes, the buzzing turned to sounds, the sounds to words. It is not done. I blinked my eyes open. Again, the stars slowed and stuck. Bayan stretched her neck down and blew warm gusts across my face. It is not done. I heard the words again, or thought I heard them. Frowning, I looked into Bayan's dark eyes. Then other words flooded my mind. I heard Ekin Corlo talking. Every living thing has a voice. This white mare has spoken to you because she knew you would hear, and you must listen. Bayan nuzzled me again, gently butting my shoulder with her muzzle. And then Bader was there as well, licking my nose with his scratchy tongue, walking across my chest and meowing. I didn't want to get up. I wanted to give up. Yet by some will stronger than my own, I rolled onto my side, nearly screaming in pain, and panting shakily managed to rise onto one knee. My eyes remained tightly shut, for the wounds were gnashing their teeth into me with a frightening fury. Still, I could hear Bayan's hooves step closer. The leather stirrup bumped my head. Gritting my teeth, I strung an arm through it and pulled myself off the ground. Then, trying not to think about blood and broken bones and spiritless bodies shriveled upon the ground, I continued pulling myself up and into the saddle, finally collapsing with a groan over its arching front. Carrying little more than a crumpled carcass then, Bayan moved off into the darkness. I thought I heard Bader's faint mew, though it sounded very far away. And then we were climbing again. Each rhythmic lunge upward stabbed fresh torture into my broken body. Bayan moved with confidence now, no more blind leaps into dark downpour. A newborn moon peeked through the silver-edged clouds, shedding a wet light upon rock washed clean of twigs and leaves. At last we were up. So long had we been climbing that Bayan's first steps upon flat ground felt as if we floated upon air. With a fog drifting at our feet, I thought with a shiver that perhaps we had climbed right through the clouds into the heavens. Bayan halted. A thick silence hung over the dampened mountaintop. In its eerie emptiness, Bayan stamped a hoof and snorted. Then she shook all over, almost unseating me. Ears pricked into the darkness, and she'd whinnied loudly. I cocked an ear as well, but the mare's call, shrouded by the fog, went unanswered. A fresh spattering of rain blew across my face. I had to find shelter, I thought. Chilled, aching all over, and soaked to the skin, I wouldn't survive another storm. But when my heels nudged Bayan, she refused to move. Was she injured too, or scared, or just plain exhausted? Out of the dark, Bader joined us again, his green eyes glinting in the moonlight. Bayan lowered her neck and touched her muzzle to his nose. They exchanged breaths. Then, lifting her head, the tired white mare took a confident step forward, following Bader through a sparse stand of pine trees. I remained the helpless passenger, doubled over her outstretched neck, clutching the saddle with icy hands. I must have fallen asleep, for an unexpected crash of lightning jolted me awake. My heart boomed in my chest, more than matching the next rolling clap of thunder. No, not again, I thought. I looked wildly around me. Another lightning bolt slashed through the sky, briefly throwing the mountaintop into stark silhouette. In that instant, I caught sight of an ox cart, empty shafts resting upon the ground. Behind it, a small cave. I threw aside any apprehensions of the strangers crouching inside. At least I wouldn't spend the night alone. Drumming Bayan's sides with my heels, I prodded her close to the cave entrance. "Hello," I called. "Hello." There was no answer from within. Perhaps they were asleep, I thought. I called again, louder, and waited. Still no answer. Perhaps they had gone hunting. Should I, uninvited, enter the shelter of a stranger? Another bolt of lightning hissing above my head made the decision clear. I leaped from the saddle and scrambled just inside the cave's mouth. The cavern yawned widely enough to shelter Bayan as well, so when the echoing thunder died down, I darted out to tug at the reins. Strangely, the white mare braced her full weight against them, refusing to take another step. So I forced my fingers, clumsy with cold, to pull the goatskin bags to the wet ground and unfasten the saddle and bridle. Bayan immediately ambled away, head to the ground, searching for grasses. In 2 pain-filled trips, I dragged the saddle, rug, bridle, and the Khan's twin bags inside the cave, still calling out in case someone slept within. No voice answered. Bader already huddled silently in the dirt, thin moonlight reflecting off the raindrops beating his coat. Suddenly, the tiring day and long, frightening night beat me to the ground. Bracing my bruised body against the cold rock wall, I shifted uncomfortably from one hip to the other, trying to ease the pain. The saddle rug was wet, but its thickness held Bayan's warmth, and I pulled it over my legs. Bader climbed up my chest, licking my nose before curling upon my lap. In the next breath, his purring reached my ears. But I didn't share his content. I was hurt, I was hungry, alone, and suddenly more scared than I had ever been in my life. "Grandmother?" "Yes, child." "Were you very, very scared?" "Yes, that night I was very, very scared." Within the darkness, the girl looked at her panting mare, again lying upon the dry glasses near her feet. She studied the sweat-beaded face. Absently, she lifted a palm to her own warm forehead. Then, heaving a long, worried sigh, she nestled closely to her grandmother's side and resumed twisting the knotted button of her dell. "What did you do?" the girl said after a moment. "I mean to say you were lost and all alone in a dark cave in the mountains. How did you keep from screaming?" A raspy chuckle rattled the old woman's chest. "Well," she answered, "to tell truth, the screaming came later. But that night, after I'd done crying and still hugging my cat upon my lap, I tried hard to be very cheerful." She paused, thinking. "You see, the herdsman's life is not an easy one. Weather swings from the heat of a fire to the cold of an ice storm, even in the same day. Always moving the animals in search of good grazing is difficult and lonely. Sickness and death arrive without warning." The wrinkled-faced woman thought some more. It is this way. When you walk next to a great chasm all the time, you dare not look down, only look to the sky with laughter. She squeezed her granddaughter's arm, but laughter left with the next sun. So that's foreshadowing. It's foreshadowing something's going to be happening where the laughter dies. So it gets even sadder. That's hard to believe. So 19 and 20, really good book though. Really good. I'm enjoying it.